Coming up on this episode of Free Lunch.
Illegal. It looks completely.
He said it's legal, but I'm like, but it look illegal though.
Traumatic, and because I'm a inner city school teacher at that.
Yeah.
So all the trauma that happens in our communities, these kids come in the classroom. How dare I, right?
How dare you?
So
You insensitive prick. How dare you? The audacity. Right? Like you're fearing something is going to happen that you've never experienced.
Yes.
Right? So it's like an unfounded fear.
yes.
This bull is intense, guys. You got to see this bull in the studio right now. This is freaking amazing right here.
And my approach is the same way that I would teach a child, from the really rudimentary, basic fundamentals of everything.
It's Free Lunch Season 3 with a special thanks to our sponsors, Bullseye-LLC.com, Ready, Aim, Bullseye, where safety is our ammo, Gen1LLC.info, Generation 1 Logistics, taking pride in putting our carriers first and helping owner-operators get premium loads, stay organized, and increase profit, and ScarletOakCandleCo.com, the self-care experts. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Freestyle Gospel, a.k.a. The Real Free, with another episode of Free Lunch. And I got guns in the building, y'all. Let me stop. Actually, we do have guns in the building, but just let me explain. Anyways, you guys know my good friend Eddie Daniels, best man at my wedding. I love this dude, man. No, I don't have him on the show today, but my boy came through the studio and brought another one of his friends by, and I was introduced, saw that he was an amazing dude, and you know I love just convincing amazing people to come through and make time in their busy schedules to come check me out and chop it up. So today in studio, we have Mr. Andre Armour, y'all. Give it up for Andre. What's up, man?
Everything's good. How's everything with you?
I am doing very well today. Today was a pretty light day. You know, I had a chance to have some peace and quiet in the studio and do a little bit of voiceover stuff up until about 1 o'clock, and then it got turned up. Yeah, it's been kind of busy. But without any further ado, man, again, I met Dre through a mutual friend, and I have much to still, learn about Dre. So that's why I'm more excited to have him in the studio today. But Andre, tell the people, introduce yourself and maybe let them know a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do.
So I'm Andre Armour. Eddie invited me to his platform, and I'm a big 2A gun guy. I'm a FFL. For those who that don't know, that's a federal firearms license dealer. I'm a Type 07 license and SOT. What that means is that I'm able to manufacture firearms.
Wow. So how hard is it to get a license like that, to like manufacture? And we're not talking about, when you say manufacture, like I've seen some of the posts on social media where it's people like using 3D printing and like, but these things are dangerous. Like they actually like have like work to where they can harm someone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that's not what you mean. You mean like legit, like manufacture.
Legit manufacturing. So 3D printing is a form of manufacturing, but as a Type 07, what the manufacturing does is give me the ability to assemble the firearm and put my name and put my markings and my brand on it. So if you see a firearm from me, it'll have my logo on it. It'll have my business name. Yeah.
So what's the name and the logo on
Bullseye LLC?
Bullseye LLC.
Yeah.
And this is the picture of like the is this a Brahma bull?
Pretty much
like
yeah.
Like the Rock, This bull is intense, guys. You got to see this bull in the studio right now. This is freaking amazing right here. So Bullseye LLC manufactures, and then some of the other things that you do.
So my background is education. I went to school to be a school teacher. Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, crazy enough.
Okay.
And I didn't know how to have it all manifest and mesh into one. So I had this intense burning desire to deal with guns. I like working with my hands. But I also like the ability to articulate myself and get what's ever in my head across to others. And I thought that meant to be a school teacher. Don't get me wrong. I'm a school teacher right now.
Yeah.
I'm a school teacher right now.
That makes sense. That's fair. Like when I want to relay information to other people, you think, it's supposed to be a teacher. Okay.
Yes. So that happened. There was an evolution that happened in my life where I decided that education wasn't really for me. And I was like, but you are a teacher. Like, I'm a firearms instructor. So I'm teaching adults. And my approach is the same way that I would teach a child, from the really rudimentary, basic fundamentals of everything. So my approach is more so.
That's the approach. That's the teacher I need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right? When you look at it, it's like, how do I get this 5-year-old or this 6-year-old to comprehend something that's more complex than they're ready to accept? And the way I adapted that to firearms was, how do I get this person who might have been afraid of them, who doesn't even want to be in the same presence of them, to embrace the idea that, let me remove the fear. Let me give this a chance and embrace it. And with the embracing, once you embrace something, it's like, oh, it's not that bad, right?
Yeah.
Because the firearm could be right here on the table. And I tell my students all the time, we leave this space. When we come back, if no one has ever touched it or no natural forces have moved it, it'll be right there.
Yeah,
and they ponder the idea and they're like, oh, you're absolutely right.
Huh. But you know what? The thing about like fear, right? When it's something that's the unknown is, and this is where, so before I touch on that fear point, let me just take a couple steps back, for those of you who out there listening, you're like, oh my God, Chris is crazy. Why you got people in there, guns in the studio? Right? Like for those who've been following my journey, at least from like the very beginning, I know we've had quite a number of like new followers to the platform and people being exposed to the podcast. So everyone I know doesn't know this, but I used to be a former law enforcement officer, and being a police officer, but at the time being in like the police academy, like having never touched a gun ever, right? Like most police officers, like they're people who have like, maybe military background, or if not, they're people who just have used guns before, training, or going to the range or something like that. Some kind of like loose experience, but I had none. So it was this like potential, back to the point of fear, right? Of the unknown. But thankfully, a combination of like a couple things. Like there was, great instructors. And I think it really was what made them great was them being able to get the idea across to me that I am in control of what this thing, like how you said, if you put it down right here on the table, and no one touches it, no like natural forces, no like storming, tornado or wind blows it over or something, it's gonna still be right there.
Absolutely.
Right. And so as like we learned how to manipulate handguns in the police academy and shooting and things like that, that became more comfortable, and like that fear subsides. So I imagine like that's something that you have to navigate with people, training people every single day.
Every single day.
You do this tell me this, is it somebody who actually like, there's the fear that's of the unknown, and that's what a lot of times we call the fear of the unknown someone having a fear of something that's never happened to them.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you're fearing something is going to happen that you've never experienced, right? So it's like an unfounded fear.
Yes.
But have you actually had to like train people past fear when they've actually had though like bad, like some kind of like trauma of experience with a gun?
So I had those experiences, and those are more exciting. And I like to tune in with those individuals one-on-one because they don't have the audience. When you're teaching a basic pistol permit course where it's like to get your Connecticut pistol permit, you have a larger class. There's spectators. But when I have that ability to introduce you at a much slower rate,
Yeah.
I just lay it on the table. Let's just sit in a space and realize that this gun is not going to move.
That's got to
Right?
be like, it reminds me of like this video I saw one time, and it's like people who had, like, they're trying to help people who had like snake phobias, and they just keep the snake in a glass shell and just sit it in the room. And like it's not able to get out, but just putting it in the same room as a person like who has that fear is like the first stage.
Exactly.
Like, we just need to get you comfortable being in the same space. You're telling me you move that slow with some people.
Not always that slow, because sometimes it's that slow means having a conversation or being in the same space as somebody.
Yeah.
Like you and I are in the same space, and if any of your viewers see the video I did with Eddie, you know that we carry firearms. So I tell the individual, you and I, we've been having this lunch, we've been having this dinner for 2 hours. We don't have to talk about guns, but this gun has been in your presence. It didn't jump off my waist. It didn't. The waiter didn't see it. No one knew that it was there. So it's like, once I have that logic and understanding that the person who I'm having this conversation with is perceiving it from an emotional standpoint, it's to, one, be empathetic.
Yes.
And accepting their fear, right? A lot of times where people get with fear is you're projecting your own confidence and your own abilities on someone else, which only pushes them away. And I'm also a huge trainer of someone who I believe don't sit there for macho-ness to put a 45 in someone's hand who's intimidated.
Nah. That's not a good look. Because one, it does two things, right? The first thing is it makes you look like a jerk, first off. And two, you're not helping anybody.
Not at all.
You're definitely you're not helping anybody by making someone feel like an idiot or someone feel embarrassed. And I've had those, bad instructors where I've had that experience. I also, part of my background is I've, done martial arts for years since I was a little kid. And so I've been in both positions as both like a trainer and being a student. And you have those people that come in with that cocky, it's disgusting. It makes you look like a really total jerk. Turtle jerk. That's what I wanted to say. Y'all heard that? Turtle jerk. I don't know what the heck that is, where it came from. But yeah, so you get from, but you said you're still a teacher.
Yes.
Right? Like outside of firearms.
Outside, I'm an elementary school teacher.
So you're a teacher. How long ago did you become a teacher?
September was me jumping back in the ring.
Well, what was the first time you was
back
a teacher?
in 2017, I was a 4th, 5th grade teacher.
Okay. And then how far back does Bullseye LLC go?
The manifestation of Bullseye LLC came in 2012, 13 after Sandy Hook happened.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. So was that like intentional? Like, was Sandy Hook a catalyst?
You can say that. So I'll explain the journey. So Sandy Hook was definitely a catalyst because that was when, at the time, I was new into it still, and that happened. And being in college, I didn't have access to a lot of resources, so I was like, that gun's on the bucket list. It's too expensive for me to afford now. I have a job, but I gotta pay rent. Sandy Hook happened, and then 2013 came when they implemented it, and it was like, all those guns that were on your bucket list, they're no more. And I was like, And so then I'll say, I went into this part, was like, it's not fun anymore. These handguns aren't fascinating. The guns that I wanted is the one that keeps it going and going. I can hit a piece of paper, shooting still. So it's like, how do I get this to make sense? And I was like, I need to start advocating, because people who vote are voting out of fear. And because of the media. Don't get me wrong, the event was horrific.
Absolutely
I would never, I'm not standing here right now and at all would never, ever, as a school teacher,
I'm a school teacher.
Every day I walk into that building, strangely enough, that's what I'm thinking. So when we do these drills as a school teacher, it's real to me because I'm like, they don't allow me to protect myself. So I'm like, it's going so much against my nature to sit in this classroom behind a closed door and hide and wait to be massacred.
But so think about it. That's kind of the same thing that I was struggling with leaving law enforcement. Like, so I was a cop up until 2015, right? And then I go from that to being a school teacher at a charter school. And I'm teaching third grade. And just like you, all the teachers, you got to go through that special, active shooter training and they're telling you, all this, and then it's also around at the same time where they're starting to get a lot of buzz is going around the conversation with this idea of maybe it being legal for certain teachers, because there's all these school shootings, maybe certain teachers who are, trained and, who have permits, to carry, maybe allowing certain teachers to have firearms in the school, right? And I remember I was being a former police officer, I'm like, I wish they would,
sign me up.
Sign me up. And because it's, and I know there's a lot of people who, totally disagree, we're free to have our opinions. But my mindset, again, right, so I had it on 3 levels, me being a former cop, me being a teacher in the school, and me being a parent of 4 kids. I'm factoring all 3 of those things and what knowledge and experience those 3 hats I wear all gives me, shapes my opinion. Yep. And I'm like, okay, I can understand, there are people like, I wouldn't want my kid's teacher to have a gun on them. Well, that kind of is a fair enough worry to have if you're not familiar with things like proper training with gun retention and being able to keep it on you and from somebody just taking it off you, because that was a lot of the fear. Now somebody's gonna take it from the teacher, or one of the kids are gonna take it, and all these very valid fears and concern. But hence why training and proper training is so important. And I think that's amazing. One of the things you shared about not just being able to have your company having a manufacturing license, but being an instructor and being able to go slow with people at their pace at which point they need it, because they're bringing to you all of their experiences, good or bad, when they show up at your doorstep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The same approach that I take from being, again, an elementary school teacher. I take all that, what happens in the household, what happens in the community, traumatic, and because I'm an inner city school teacher at that. Yeah. So all the trauma that happens in our communities, these kids come in the classroom. You have to, again, be empathetic and being, a product of the same inner city in which I, derived from, helps that. I tell people, I'm a huge advocate for our police officers being a representation of our community, and our school teachers also being a representation of our community, because it allows you to be more empathetic. Because people a lot of times, and this is going back being a little educational, but people mistaken empathy for sympathy all the time, and not being able to understand the ability to walk in someone else's shoes.
It is definitely a difference. Nah, you gotta be able to at least be empathetic, and that's it's really, really calming, I think, when you go to any space, whether, to the school, and this is as a person who's a parent, go to, whether it's a school, go to your job, workplace, go to somewhere for training, a business, and you're able to see people who look like you.
Absolutely.
Right? There are, we all have these, unspoken biases and or stereotypes that we, carry or what have you. But we also have these like kind of like inside broken pieces of us as well. And I think for there to be, I didn't even know that like for the longest time that is even a thing that you can do as a person, like let alone as a, Black or brown person, like to know in your community that has, not only like the licenses like that, but the proper training experience that you can go to and say, hey, I want to get more educated on this thing, how to do this safely. And then there's someone in the community who is from the same space you are. They've maybe encountered some of the same worries or things you've encountered, and they can lead you in that empathetic manner. So that's really, really big. I want to go. I want to have you tell me about how do you end up navigating both of these spaces though, like simultaneously, like as a teacher. Well, you said you put the teacher down, like teaching down for a second, and then you recently started teaching again.
Yes.
Is that something that you expect to keep doing, or is Bullseye LLC like a brand or something that you expect to like grow and eventually just do that, or do you find kind of this efficacy and benefit to be had in remaining intentionally like in these both spaces, kind of?
Okay, so first I had to come out of the closet, and
yeah.
So I was the what I call inside the closet gun guy. My family didn't know I was into guns. People that I would address in public because it always was a debate.
There's this like negative connotation that people,
So when I was the teachers and being in Connecticut, I don't identify with
the place of Sandy Hook.
I don't identify with any political party. How dare I, right?
How dare you?
So
you insensitive prick. How dare you? The audacity. Yo, I know.
All of it, I get. All of it. And I had to get that. I needed that.
Yeah.
Because it built that armor. I wouldn't be able to stand on this mic knowing that thousands of people may be able to hear that. And I'm like...
Is that your real last name, by the way?
Armour, yeah. People love it. And I didn't have no idea.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
I thought this was like a stage name or something, a brand name. No, this dude's name is really Andre Armour. That's crazy.
And the crazy part, because as a child, it didn't mean anything. And then for me to evolve into this space, they'd be like, why didn't you just take it and name your business? Because I'm like, no one ever said my name was cool until I got older.
Until you got older, exactly.
And they were pronouncing it wrong. And like, you were calling me Amor because you're like, oh, Amor. Oh, I was like, that's not my name. Like, oh, that's adorable. That's cute. Like, come on, man. That's not my name. And it's like, oh. As a child, it's like, oh.
Oh, God.
Now as an adult, it's like, oh.
So you had to first get comfortable with it. Okay.
And then, so to answer your other question directly, definitely 100% is to I want to leave. I know that education is always going to be a part of me. I'm always going to want to teach. I'm always going to provide a service. It's my nature to be in servitude to others. A famous quote that I always use from Jay-Z: "I can't help the poor if I'm one of them. So I got rich and gave back." To me, that's the win-win. I've always took that quote, and as a school teacher, yes, I can teach, and that could be my way of giving back. But I can really teach in any kind of magnitude. I can open
teaching is really like it's in you as a characteristic. Like people who teach well. So no matter what space you find yourself in, you find yourself teaching.
Exactly.
It don't matter what you can be the cashier at McDonald's, and it's like you find yourself. Yeah. Wow. No, that's dope because it's and I think it keeps you like low to the ground. It keeps you humble.
Absolutely.
Right? It keeps you humble, and as long as you can stay in this humble space, I think it becomes the bridge for all those other things that like we earlier talked about, like that, people being able to, lose fear, people being able to, even like you said yourself, like you first had to like, come out and be, bold with, you having a thing for guns or being into that. Like there might be people who again also have that same thing. You're able to be this bridge in that humility, like kind of like, again, like keeping your hand, your finger on the pulse, how they say, you know what I mean? So that's really, really dope too. I know when you were coming, I knew when I was going to have you come on the show, I said, yo, try to, bring, a few, pieces, to show the people, for those of you who are following Free Lunch everywhere on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. See if you guys was following on all the social media. When I got dope people in the studio and doing cool, dope stuff, you get to see this stuff. You don't get to see this, man, just being on your, Spotify, Apple, just listening. You got to follow the page. So, everywhere at Free Lunch. That's FRII Lunch. But I got my man Andre. He's going to show us some cool stuff that he brought in today. And because he knows this is a podcast, he's going to do his best to articulate to those who can't see. But I'll be doing the ooh and an eye too. So I hope I'm not making y'all jealous when I'm ooh and an eye, but at least, you'll know it's like dope. And any of the special names that it might be called, like I'm not by any means what you would consider like a gun enthusiast. But I have seen some like amazing cool stuff from, just because I like to play Call of Duty. Where all my Modern Warfare fans at? You know what I'm saying? By any chance, do you play Call of Duty?
Nah, so
okay. You're not a video game guy?
Not a video game. I was as a child and in my 20s, but it changed. I'm a worker, if that makes sense. So I'm a guy, even now, school teacher and business owner. Before that, I'm also, my background is social services. So I always had multiple jobs, and I was like chasing the bag. Okay. So I never really had the time to really consume that much entertainment, because I know I have a obsessive, like once I start something, I gotta finish it. So I'll end up playing video games.
Well, it looked like you definitely have put all of your video game time into making the video game, the weapons from the game. Yeah.
So this one right here, I've like many other people.
This thing in the studio, y'all. This thing looked like straight like something from Halo or Call of Duty or Star Wars. This thing is white and black. What is this thing called?
So that's the MCK Generation 2 pistol brace. And the reason I brought that up here is because this was kind of some of the things I had to do before becoming an FFL.
You made this?
Nah, so this is a brace, and this is a Glock 19 inside of it. So when that Sandy Hook law changed, things that look like this is scary, it's intimidating. So it's not legal if it's like this. But this is just a pistol inside of a chassis.
So is this legal?
This is legal.
This is legal.
For a civilian to own in Connecticut.
But it looks illegal.
It looks completely illegal. It looks completely.
He said it's legal, but I'm like, but it look illegal though.
Nah, this thing looks beastie. Like, wow. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So, I mean, is it heavy?
Here you go. So
it's not too bad.
You have familiarity with firearms. Yeah. So a pistol only has but so much stability and so much distance. When you shoulder something, it allows it to create more distance. Yeah. So when you put something exactly. So when you put something inside of a chassis that you can shoulder and use more points of contact, it gives you a greater distance. So I might get hit 100 yards with a pistol, but inside this, the 100 yards becomes effortless.
Wow.
Because you have the sight.
I know all of y'all gunheads out there. Listen, yo, look this dude up, Bullseye LLC. Y'all know it's going to be in the description. This dude, this is crazy. But he actually makes guns as well. But this is something that, the brace, is that something that you have to like make your
So the one I'm going to show you next is something I completely, every piece of that I configured together. Okay. This was something I brought because it was like, people want to know how can they take something, because they can't necessarily legally, civilians can't necessarily legally have what I own.
Yeah.
So this was something I like to throw out there and customize.
Yeah.
because people are like, oh, I want something cool like that, but we live in Connecticut. Well, you have a Glock. And
I
you
want
have
something cool, but unfortunately, you live in Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly. And literally,
Hey man, shout out to Connecticut, man. I love my Connecticut people, man.
so do I.
Hey, all day, man. Born and raised here. So look, that thing collapsible stock. I didn't even notice that part.
So this is
All right, now supposedly, guys, he's saying he arranged this entire piece right here.
from every.
Yeah.
My hands touch every bolt, every screw, every component from the tip to the butt.
So
side.
so your name's on this.
Yes, right there. You can verify.
Where's the?
You can verify.
All right, guys. It said I'm looking at the stock here. It says Bullseye LLC, Monroe, Connecticut,
And the serial number.
11012021. Don't go play those numbers, y'all. I don't think you're gonna win nothing. But wow, that's crazy. All right, so what is this called?
This is an AR-15. Right?
Oh, like, so you still just call it the regular gun name? Like when you put it together, you don't get to call it your own name. And name it.
Do I? Yeah, I can.
You do.
So,
But you don't.
I'm going to. So so I was in
So
this.
you might have gave me the idea. I'm about to.
No, I was in this space where I was like, so I got my FFL, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it.
For people who don't know what that is.
No, so again, federal firearms licensed dealer.
Okay.
So it was easier for me to become a FFL once I got through zoning and finding the right landlord who would allow me to operate my business out of their facility. And so once I got granted, I didn't want to wait for my permanent markings to be on it, which is in transit. But I was like, I'm anxious. I have the ability. I have the skill.
Yeah.
So I took a Aero Precision lower receiver, which has their A, and I was like, hey, let's play with my name and let's keep it up there.
Okay. The whole
And then from
Andre Armour thing.
exactly.
AA. Okay.
And then this FDE match on black. I love the tones of it.
Okay.
But this right here, when I talk about from the barrel to it, every part, I don't have the machinery to create a barrel or create these parts. I get them and then I put them all together. And because I'm the one that's putting it all together, I'm the manufacturer. I manufacture because I'm now putting it out to the market. When I get my lower receivers, I'm going to be doing things such as this. What I really want to put a tease out to the world is when I do my first fully automatic M16. I'm going to do an M16. A lot of things with production has slowed down, so it's just really waiting for the parts to be produced. It's already paid for.
Yeah.
It's the order is submitted. It's just waiting for it to arrive and then putting my stamp on it.
Well, I ain't, like I said, I ain't the big enthusiast, type. I like cool stuff that look like video games, though. So I'm a big Call of Duty head. But the other thing too, like being an officer, and just seeing some of the things that I've seen, it's made me. I definitely will say, it's made me a stickler. When it comes to things like safety.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of like the best like safety tips you can give people who maybe go from just having handguns in their house and they have a family, kids or whatever, to having something like some of these bigger things like you have, like rifles or or machine guns? Like is the safety approach in your mind the same either way? Doesn't matter if it's handgun or this. I know there are things that are the same, doesn't matter, but do you have some different approach when it comes to like larger guns, when it comes to safety?
Absolutely not. Everything is identical. And the basic 3 principles is treat every gun as if it's loaded. Never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Know your target and what's beyond it, because the bullets travel.
Yes.
If I shot this rifle, it's going to zip through multiple walls in this studio, and it's therefore dangerous. But if I treat, even though I know that this gun is unloaded and checked it multiple times before even coming in this building, I still treat it. I never crossed it over to you, and the barrel never was pointed in your direction or anything.
Exactly,
so it's those kind of basic things.
Keeping the fundamental. It don't matter where you go up from here. Keep those fundamentals. You're good.
Every single time.
Before we wrap up, man, like I told you before we went on the air, this is the Free Lunch Podcast, man. And so other than just, give the people, what's tangible, we have a double entendre, play on the word free lunch here, where we got to give some people something that's edifying for the soul, just like lunch, man. So, taking your brand and what it symbolizes, what you hope to do, and just taking into account all of what we discuss going into, when it comes to whether it's training people or overcoming like their fear. What's one takeaway you want the listener to leave from with today?
That's
something
good
that's
question.
edifying for their soul.
Don't put your safety and responsibility of life in someone else's hand. And what I mean by that, the pandemic showed us such drastic, intimate situations where people were vulnerable.
Yeah.
And no one came to their aid except for themselves. And I watch, I don't consume a lot of it, but I consume enough social media where I see people being victimized constantly. And I'm glad social media is there because it allows it to be brought into the limelight to show people that it's a reality.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for many people, they're not able to tell their story of the reality of it. So yes, I'm a 2A advocate. Yes, I'm a gun trainer and all that. But even if guns wasn't here, the ability of self-preservation is at the core what life, liberty, and freedom. Yes. Life, liberty, and freedom is what we are God-given rights. And that's what I would leave with.
And y'all know me on this show. I ain't political in the least. People out there love guns, like guns, whether it's for sport, and then people out there have guns because they just love something else, like their family, and then they have guns for that. Me personally, when I left the police department, I had an option to keep my gun, keep my permit license. At the time, I didn't. I chose not to. And then there's times, like now, where my wife and I, we both just finished, getting retrained and to get our license again, because I let the other one just expire because I just didn't care. And I'm somebody who ultimately Andre here talked about not putting your trust in other people. I put my trust in God big time. You guys hear me on the show say that all the time. But for me and my house, and my wife, we decided that it was right for us. And that's the thing that I love about being able to have platforms where people have like the space to not just how you always hear like people say, share their truth, but the space to share their just opinion without any intent to harm someone else or make someone else feel like they don't have the freedom or space to have their own. So I enjoy having people of all different backgrounds, come froms, interests. Like I said, I'm not a super gun head, but yeah, I like to have people of different backgrounds like yourself and enthusiasts, because I know there are other people out there who also have a passion, enthusiastic about having guns, but they might not have the training and the right mindset that they should have. And those are the people I'm afraid of going into a building harming our children, or those are the people I'm afraid of accidentally shooting someone because they don't know how to properly take care of these things. I can connect with someone like you, who is the enthusiast, who is the instructor, who is the person who's putting guns together. And the rest of us who are not into that might be like, oh my God, this man's crazy. He has a gun from Star Wars. But you know what? He can help speak to the listener, the audience of people who have that interest, but need the training, have that interest, but need the right people to be connected to. Bullseye LLC.
Absolutely.
Is one of the right people to be connected to.
Thank you.
So somebody could baby step, walk you through at the pace you are, so that whenever I might have to cross paths with you. You know what you're doing with that firearm that you may have on your hip, on your waist. When my, kids are maybe visiting your kid, having a sleepover, they're not going into your safe with an unsecured gun and then accidentally shooting my kid, right? Like that stuff happens when people are not properly connected.
Correct.
So you heard it from my man, Andre Armour.
Yes, sir.
Bullseye LLC.
Yes, it is.
Get connected. Get connected, man. Yo, any last words? Oh, you know what? You definitely got to give to people. Where can they find you on social media, on the internet? All this stuff, guys, will also be in the description of this episode, but let the people know.
The best way to get in contact with me is on Instagram, and that's Bullseye_LLC. Please check out my website. There's apparel up there. There's firearms. It's still growing. It's still evolving. There's all types of services I provide. I try to make this a one-stop shop for all your firearm needs.
Yo, and not to cut you off, I totally forgot something I saw on your website I want to ask you about.
Oh, what's up?
The simunition.
Oh, the simunitions is amazing.
Oh, my
The
God.
simunitions is amazing.
Oh, see, now I'm about to have him come back on the show, y'all. We got, just real quick, tell the people about the simunition.
Simunition is a real-life situation with real firearms that's been...
So you're providing simunition training.
correct.
Y'all, I know we got to go, y'all, but listen to this. I've done simunitions training before, being a cop in law enforcement. Yo, if you are trying to get the best real life experience, as close as you could get to real life training or experiencing what it could potentially feel like and the adrenaline rush of getting shot for real, but without having to be shot for real, simunition, think paintball, but times 10. Like,
Yes, sir.
oh my God, insane. But that's amazing. A firearms instructor who also offers simunition, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can find, best way to reach you was Instagram, and then the website.
www.bullseye-llc.com. Definitely got to do this again.
Yo,
I'm amped up.
the simunitions is crazy. Yo, thank you so much for coming, man. Hey, y'all, it's free lunch, free food for your soul. Peace.